Prepare to travel back in time when creative storylines, brought to life by simple 2D graphics and captivating music, was the soundtrack to many adventures that were unforgettable. The artistic talent of developers during the 16-bit generation pushed the boundaries of the technology of what was possible at that time. Intro scenes were no longer than just loading screens, but became cinematic masterpieces that in some instances were unforgettable and boosted the game's quality exponentially. There was now world building, and characters had lore, creating a more immersive and layered experience. These intros now became gateways to the new worlds that awaited each and every player. The nostalgia of retro video games are explored in this episode, showcasing 5 memorable and enduring cinema intro scenes on the Super Nintendo. These iconic sequences demonstrate how the 16-bit era captured the imagination of a generation with captivating visual stories and memorable music, leaving a lasting impression that withstood the test of time. These classic intros from the Super Nintendo are pure visual magic and simply amazing. It's about that time again. Sit back, relax, and enjoy this Super Nintendo retro-powered rewind. During this time, polygon graphics were starting to emerge, and the future of gaming was starting to take form. With the exception of Star Fox, no other games looked like this, and everyone I knew was impressed by this new art style. What a great introduction, short and to the point. As for the game itself, well, let's just give it props because it was one of the first of its kind, and this game was created and mostly made by one guy, if my memory serves me correctly. This game is crazy difficult, the controls aren't that great, it's hard to maneuver around, but if you give it some time and you learn the patterns of each stage, then you could have a good experience playing this. If you like a challenging experience, then Out of This World is for you. The art style in this opening scene is one of my favorites. Anytime I see sci-fi and anime combined in an intro scene, it automatically captures my attention. During the 16-bit generation, anime aesthetics were the coolest and always gave the game a bit of edge that Western-developed games did not have. This intro scene, for the most part, is great. However, my only complaint is the amount of text on the screen. If I wanted to read a book, I would read a book. If there was a voiceover, that would have been really cool. This game is a great experience and I'm sure a lot of you will enjoy it. Generally speaking, I do not like vehicles in games. This feels like a vehicle, therefore, I didn't enjoy it as much as I would like to. However, that is just my preference. Cybernator is definitely a quality game, and I highly recommend it if you haven't played it already. These scenes are like a movie, and it's impressive how you can feel the cold climate from the music and sound effects. I have always been impressed by the cinematics in this game, and it never ceases to amaze me. Besides having a great intro, Final Fantasy III is one of the premier RPGs of the 16-bit generation. The graphics, sound, controls, and fun factor are all there in full effect. The storytelling elements and character development of the large cast of 14 characters really makes this stand out among its peers and a timeless adventure unlike any other. If you're a fan of role-playing games with unprecedented storytelling, well, this is one of the greatest ever and is an all-time must-play. I don't know what to say about this game that hasn't already been said, but this is one of the greatest games ever. The way the music captivates you during the intro scenes is legendary. As the characters travel through time and space, you can't help but feel the magnitude of this adventure. The graphics, with its anime aesthetic, look incredible and are some of the best seen up to this point. This is definitely my favorite intro scene on this entire list. The All-Star team created something that ironically transcends time itself. It is simply amazing what this team did despite the limitations of technology at the time, and this is one of the greatest games of all time, so go play it. Here we learn Earth is at its wit's end, and it's up to a handful of soldiers to save it from being taken over by the forces of the Dark Axis. The graphics are outstanding, and the mech suits look amazing. Imagine this for a second, that you are the pilot of a giant mech with all sorts of weapons at your disposal, and a lightsaber. I know, crazy, right? You got a mech suit with a lightsaber. Metal Warriors is a great game. The graphics, sound, control, challenge, and fun factor is all there. I highly recommend it, especially to sci-fi fans. Great intro scenes and cutscenes have always been one of my favorite components in video games since I first witnessed Ninja Gaiden's legendary opening scenes. I have always been impressed how these scenes create added lore, story, and depth for the characters in any given game. These are truly works of art, and still to this day, I always look forward to seeing high-quality anime-inspired intro scenes. They're impressive, they make the games better, and to me, they're just perfect.